Welcome everyone to the Dansports.tips MLB Daily Fantasy Preview. I'm just going to quickly run through what we're going to do today. The way the show will run is I will go through pitches, I'll go through the recommended stacks that you should have in your lineup to maximise your potential point scoring today, your foundation players that you should be building the foundation of your lineup upon, and some value plays that you might be able to pick up for a cheaper amount of money that will score you some points as well. I don't like to spend a lot of money on the catcher position, basically because catcher I don't think is a premium position where it's worth paying it up. You don't get the steals, you don't tend to get as much production from that position, and we like to try and target obviously pitchers with strikeouts and hitters at the top of the lineup, because by nature as the lineup recycles they get more opportunities and therefore more potential to score points for you. With that, let's get on to today's action. Just a quick review of yesterday's players that we put up. There were some good plays, more good than bad yesterday, which is, considering yesterday was a hard day, I think, you know, we'll call Bryce Harper, who went 2 for 3 with a run and an RBI and a walk. We'll call that good. I mean, he was premium priced, but it's decent production. Brandon Phillips for 3,300 went 2 for 4 with a run for Cincinnati at second base as a value play. John Jaso was a value play in the outfield for us for 3,500. He went 2 for 4 with a walk. Joe Ross for Washington picked up the win, got 5 strikeouts. He was cheaper than a lot of pitchers yesterday. That's why, I, despite the low strikeout number, I'm willing to put that up as a win, as a good play. Corey Spangenberg of San Diego qualified at second base and third base. Only set you back 3,500. Was one of our value plays. He went 2 for 4. One of those hits was a double with an RBI and a stolen base. Nolan Arenado, 4,900 from Colorado, went 2 for 4 with a home run as well. I'm going to put up our stack for Kansas City as a good play. Hosmer for 4,500 and Moustakas for 4,000. They did only go 2 for 8. I grant you that. They did have a walk and an RBI, but the 2 hits they had were a home run and a triple, which, you know, those count for bigger points in. And that's why I'm going to call it a good play. The Colorado stack I'm going to call a good play as well, which is tenuous. We stacked Carlos Gonzalez for 4,800 with Charlie Blackmon for 4,800. Now, granted, there were much better stacks if we'd have gone Carlos Gonzalez with Nolan Arenado or Carlos Gonzalez with Trevor Story, because that stack went 2 for 8 with 2 home runs and 2 RBIs. Blackmon was 0 for 4, so all the production came from Carlos Gonzalez. But for the points for the stack, it still worked out. The bad plays, Ryan Zimmerman cost us 4,000, wasn't even in the lineup. Well, we put Big Puppy up as our foundation first baseman. He went 0 for 4 for 4,700. We put Pedroia up. The Boston Red Sox let us down in a big way yesterday. He was our foundation second baseman. He only went 1 for 4. Carlos Correa let us down a second day in a row, going 0 for 3 with a walk at shortstop for 4,900. And I'm going to put Jake Arrieta up as a bad play, because although he got the win and 6 strikeouts, he allowed 3 earned runs, 2 of which were home runs, and that's not really what you're looking for the premium price of 11,100. So, you know, you win some, you lose some, but I think on the whole yesterday we did okay on the show, and let's hope for more good than bad today. Let's get started. The stacks you want to be using for your lineups today, well, there was only one I found that really appealed, and that's in Detroit. Miguel Cabrera at first base sets you back 5,000, and JD Martinez in the outfield at 4,500. They've got to face the left-handed pitcher today, which is exactly what you'd be looking for a pair of right-handers. John Neese is distinctly average. He's got an ERA over 4 for his career. I think Miggy and JD Martinez look set to have a big day today. 9,500 is fairly reasonably priced, and that's, I think, the only stack that I was absolutely willing. I'd look at Boston as well. I think they could score some runs today, but there wasn't a particular 1-2 that I found, and maybe Washington as well. There's some combinations there, as you'll see later on in the show, that you can use, but that was the main stack at the top of the order, where I think there's home run RBI potential, where the 2 will be linked together. The pitchers today, there's two at the top end I really like. David Price for Boston, obviously is an extreme strikeout pitcher. He usually ranks in the top 5 of the league in that category. He gets to face a Boston lineup that does strike out a lot. He is expensive at 12,200, but David Price I think is money in the bank. The only concern would be after Boston got shut out tonight was the win side of things, but I certainly think that if it is a low scoring game that could be a problem for us, but I think he's probably amongst the best of the top end starters. The other one I like the look of is Sonny Gray. I'm a little bit less enthused about him, only because it seems that the Angels have had his number the last 2 times he started, and they have scored almost a run an inning in his last 2 starts. However, he's another one that does seem to strike out a lot of pitches, and while that stat holds up for the Angels, I'm not convinced about that lineup this year, and I think 9,600 is a reasonable value, reasonable price for Sonny Gray in Oakland. The value pitcher that I've got is Aaron Nola of Philadelphia for 8,500. All this man does is throw strikes. He was great the first time out against Cincinnati before the bullpen, as they tend to do in Philly, blew the lead for him. He's facing an offence in San Diego that I personally am not convinced by, despite the recent outburst over 29 runs in 2 games they scored in Colorado. This isn't Colorado, although it is a hitter's ballpark. I think Nola certainly has great strikeout potential tonight, and the Phillies can squeak a win in this game. Foundation players for today's lineup. At first base, I've gone with Eric Hosmer of Kansas City. It's the lefty-righty matchup that we look for. He's facing Colin McHugh, who was an absolute atrocity his first time out. He only managed to get 1 out, and his ERA after 1 start is over 100, which just about says it all. Unless McHugh can turn it around tonight, Hosmer looks set to maybe have a big day. At second base, I've gone with Robinson Cano of Seattle. While the park does kind of temper your enthusiasm a little bit, he is 381 with a homer off of Colby Lewis. Colby Lewis, the right-handed pitcher, has struggled with the home run in his career and doesn't pitch very well against Seattle, so I think Cano is a reasonable play. Third base, we've gone with Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs. Again, it's a nice matchup. It's a nice park to hit. It's a lefty on a righty. 4,800 was reasonable, I thought. At shortstop, I've gone Xander Bogaerts of the Boston Red Sox for 4,100. Yovani Gallardo has more to do to convince me this year, and this offense is better than the Twins' offense that he faced in his first start of the year. He has pitched Boston well, I grant you that, but I think Bogaerts was about... shortstop seemed fairly hard today, and Bogaerts was about the best I could find. In the outfield, we're going with Bryce Harper of the Washington Nationals. When he made contact yesterday, the ball went a long way. It did stay in the park, unfortunately, but for 4,900, I think he's got a pretty solid matchup today for Washington, and I'd expect a decent output against Bud Norris, who is another pitcher who has struggled with the home run, tracing back to his Baltimore days. My value plays at catcher, I've gone for Wilson Ramos of Washington for 3,300. He's 385 with a homer for his career off of Bud Norris. As I said with Bryce Harper, Norris has struggled with the long ball. He's struggled in games he's pitched against Washington, and I think Ramos looks a decent bet as catcher, as decent as they come anyway. For first baseman, I'm sticking with Washington. Ryan Zimmerman, I'm sure, will be in the lineup today. 3,900. Norris's ERA the last 3 years in 4 appearances, granted only 1 start against Washington, is 11.12, and April is the worst month of the career for him, with an average of an ERA over 6 in the month of April, so he's historically a slow starter as well. Second baseman, let's stay in Washington, Daniel Murphy for 4,100. He's another player who's hit a home run off of the home run happy Bud Norris, and is hitting 462 this year so far. Third base, I've gone with Kyle Seager of Seattle, 4,200. He will set you back. He's hitting 345 off Colby Lewis in his career. Lewis, another one who struggled with the home run. Again, this one's slightly tempered by the enthusiasm of pitching in the safe, but he's got 2 home runs off Colby Lewis, and we can expect a reasonable day today. Shortstop, Jose Iglesias of Detroit, 3,300. He faces the left-handed pitcher in Nisi and is hitting .438 this year. The top of the lineup, setting the table for the big three, the Martinezes and Miggy. So I think he's a decent shout as well. Speaking of the Martinezes, it's a little bit of a cheat because I've got him in the stack as well. But the value outfield, 4,500 is higher than I'd usually put up a value play. But JD Martinez is a premium slugger who hasn't really got going yet. He hit 38 home runs last year, and hasn't hit one yet this year, so he's yet to get going. Colin McHugh, as I said, was an atrocity the last time out, and I'm looking for the Detroit Tigers and JD Martinez in particular to take advantage of that today. That is all I have for you today. Best of luck with your lineups, and I will see you tomorrow.